Everyone, welcome back to the People Track at TIPE 2023. Next up, I'm excited to introduce you all to Julie Kurt, Head of Marketing at Quantica, who will be presenting from cybersecurity to 3D printing, first impressions and key learnings about getting into additive manufacturing. If you do have any questions for our speakers throughout this session, please feel free to drop those into the Q&A tab on the right-hand side of the screen. So I'm just going to bring Julie on to the stage now.
All right.
Hi, Julie.
Hello, can you hear
I'll
me?
turn my camera off. Take it away.
All right, but you can't see my screen at the moment, or can you?
Yet.
It's saying embed presentation content, so at the moment.
Do you have the function to present document on share?
Sorry?
On the share tab.
Yes. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No,
I was
no
doing
worries.
the present content. All right. Okay, so now can you see my screen, hear me?
Yes.
All good to go? Awesome. All right.
Great.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining my session. I'm happy to. It gets to be something that's more, on a personal note as a part of the People Track. As mentioned, my talk is titled "From Cybersecurity to 3D Printing: First Impressions and Key Learnings About Getting into Additive Manufacturing." So today I will be walking you through sort of my mindset of moving from the cybersecurity industry to the additive manufacturing industry, taking a look at their similarities, but also, sharing my insights and tips for kind of jumping into AM. So I will, all right, there we go. So to kind of give you a little bit of a background about who I am, my name is Julie Kurt. I'm originally from a place called Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the US. But after graduation, I headed out to San Francisco to jump into the infamous Bay Area tech scene. And that was where I got a job at a startup that eventually brought me over to Berlin, Germany, where I now call home. Outside of work, I enjoy painting and drawing, yoga, bouldering, traveling, and kind of learning about all new things. I'm a bit prone to, the YouTube and documentary rabbit holes. Right now, I'm looking into a lot of urban agriculture and biomimicry. So if you're interested in any of those topics afterwards, feel free to reach out. But anyway, to kind of continue on kind of what I'm currently doing. So right now I'm leading the manufacturing function at Quantica, which is a company that's developing a new kind of multi-material jetting technology and the systems that that technology is housed in. So we're currently focusing on the dental industry and then also research and development professionals, but we're also in many talks with organizations in the areas of manufacturing and consumer goods and electronics and so on. So the system that you can see here and in the animation is our NovoJet C7, which is sort of the first design iteration of our open system for multi-material research and development. And we actually showcased it live at Formnext this year, or last year. But the core of our technology is really its ability to jet higher viscosity fluids and kind of long story short, higher viscosity fluids translates to being able to print more materials and with better properties. And then the multi-material element sort of comes in with the combination of print heads in the system. So this system will have 7 print heads, which means 7 materials to play with. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. In this video, we have 2 material print sample that we've developed to kind of showcase 2 materials being printed together. So the one being this soft transparent material and the other being this pink hard rigid material. But in general, with this system, what we are and that we're going to release at the end of the year will be to kind of give researchers access to our technology and start thinking about designing and developing multi-material and high performance materials. So as you can imagine, this involves a lot of different parts of the organization, a lot of different skill sets, kind of from the design, development to the commercial side, to material development and so on. So it's been kind of a fun and wild 11 months filled with lots of learnings, but we still also have a lot more coming. So mostly what I've been focusing on in this past year has been from the branding and kind of website communications, conferences and events, content, social media, and then also market research. But yeah, so I joined about a year ago. So maybe let's take a quick step back and look at a little bit of where I'm coming from. So as the talk suggests, I recently made the leap from the world of cybersecurity to additive manufacturing. And kind of throughout my journey in cyber, I wore many different hats, from interning at a file encryption company to being the first marketing hire at a security testing company, where I got to work very closely with a diverse group of cybersecurity professionals from around the world, and got to dive into kind of all areas of marketing, including content, events, community, and sort of customer marketing initiatives. And in my time, I got a chance to learn kind of what makes the community tick, from working with leaders in the space who are managing security teams within large organizations, but then also working with freelance hackers who are ethically breaking things just for the pure joy and knowledge of it, but in safe ways. And I also got to, know their motivations, understand their thought processes, and even a little bit of the technical knowledge rubbed off, giving me, a good level, or a good high level understanding of sort of the cybersecurity landscape and industry. So in my role, I was, working with all of these different people. I got to then experiment on a lot of different projects and sort of challenge the traditional sense of marketing. So we did a lot of crazy events. We would host kind of helicopter tours in Las Vegas, and we even would create cybersecurity children books, which you can see here on my slide. But yeah, throughout the 6 years, there were sort of three key elements that sort of drew me to the industry, and we're going to take a look at those. So the first one that really drew me into the cybersecurity industry is the complexity and the pace of the industry. So it's constantly evolving. There's always, new cutting edge technologies and innovations, from artificial intelligence and machine learning to network and application security to blockchain and cloud security. There's always something new and exciting happening. But predominantly, I was working within the application security world. So that's just, one small piece of the cybersecurity industry puzzle. And the industries and the technologies being, so diverse and widespread, meant that I got to learn a lot of new things, but it also meant that I could really kind of make an impact in the digital world around me. And then another thing would be like the second point is, and what I noticed and experienced, was the sense of community and kind of shared purpose. So people in the field are passionate about protecting the world, and they're willing to share their knowledge and expertise to help others. There's a real sense of camaraderie and mutual support. And I'll never forget, like, the first time that I went to a conference, I was super nervous. I was afraid, I'm going to be the new person on the marketing side, and I just kind of went in with lots of questions, and everyone was super supportive and willing to help out. I remember having just the longest conversations in the hallways of these conference for hours about crazy cybersecurity fuzzing, security testing, and kind of, they're just super excited to kind of share everything with you. I completely lost my voice for the 6-day conference, but I learned a ton, and that sense of kind of community only sort of continued to grow throughout my time there. And yeah, this drew me in because I felt that I was really a part of something, and I was a part of the vision of the industry, and I wasn't alone. I really had, like, a full tribe with me. And then lastly, it was really the hacker mindset. So similar to the idea of the community being open and willing to share their knowledge, the people in the industry are also have a unique mindset that sets them apart. So they're smart and scrappy, and they really have a knack for problem solving. They embrace this sort of like fail fast mentality, and aren't afraid to break the status quo to drive real innovation. And it was kind of great to work with individuals who are not only intelligent and creative, but also like willing just to try out new things and really learn. So that was important, as it really instilled this desire to have a work environment that really encouraged continuous learning, growth, and improvement. But yeah, now that I kind of give you a little bit of background, understanding of who I am, where I'm coming from, sort of the driving impressions. I'm going to kind of use this structure to talk about some of the things within the additive manufacturing space. And maybe a little bit of background is that I loved the cybersecurity industry, but I felt like I got to kind of a point where I was ready to look into a new industry. And it was at the stage in my career where I knew I wanted to try something else. And then when I first spoke to Quantica, I had a hunch that there would be some similarities to these key kind of core elements and values. So let's take a look at that. So the first one that I was surprised to kind of discover was sort of the scale and diversity of the technology in the industry. The industry is constantly evolving, and there's just so many different technologies and companies developing various applications. So even from early applications such as rapid prototyping to dental implants and custom prosthetics to now seeing even some really wild and exciting applications coming out in bioprinting, large scale 3D printing for aerospace and construction to microfabrication for printed electronics. So there's really just crazy amounts of things going on. And it can be a bit intimidating in the beginning, but also is really exciting and kind of gives you that extra drive to be contributing. Using Quantica as an example, one of the systems that we're developing is a material jetting system for multi-material dentures, but there are also several other 3D technologies that are leveraged in the dental industry, along with other applications outside of producing dentures. So when we look at applications or specific technologies, they are usually just one small piece of the industry as a whole. And then, related to the rapidly changing technologies and widespread applications is really the sheer complexity within the industry. So this was something that was sort of, new to me, or not new to me, but just the sheer amount of information was something that was a bit overwhelming when I was first diving into things, but once again, really opened so many doors in terms of knowledge and learning. So using Quantica as an example, again, in the end, we're developing print heads and 3D printing systems, which maybe seems simple coming from an outside perspective, but really there are just so many elements that go into developing that technology. So our team has designed and developed a new kind of print head, meaning we've built it from scratch, everything that goes into it, from the theory to the development, the mechanics of it, how the materials dispense, the interaction of materials, and so on. And then in addition to our print heads, we're also developing the systems that are powered by the print heads. So that means the mechanics, the electronics, the firmware, the software, and so on. So, there's just so many different complexities on an individual scale. And then even when, you combine those different functions together, it only adds to it. So, and in the end, we're trying to produce this to be, to come to our desired outcome, which is really to give users the most simplified process possible. So, kind of on that note, the last or third thing that key component really is the community side. It takes a village really, and the sense of community and collaboration with the industry is something that really kind of stood out to me. The additive manufacturing industry is quite community and partnership oriented, with a lot of crossover and opportunities for collaboration. So you see a lot of 3D companies working together, and even I can say from a startup level, there's been a lot of people who are willing to support us and collaborate with us as we're in the development and building stages. When I first joined the industry, I even reached out to a lot of people, just saying hey, I'm new, I'm really interested in learning, and I got a lot of really positive response. And it led to a lot of super interesting conversations with folks, in the robotics industry, to audiology, to the rail industry, to consumer goods. And I have some of those messages, or at least the introduction messages here. So that was really one of really awesome, that when I first joined, that so many people were really supportive and wanting to offer help And then outside of just the individual, there's, organizations like Women in 3D Printing, conferences like AMUG that are really focused on the people. And yeah, to me, that is something important with the considering an industry to work in. But yeah, so kind of based on those impressions, I really have kind of two main pieces of advice for those who are new to the industry, and we can kind of jump into that. There's a lot to learn in the AM space, but there's also a lot of resources out there. And I've included some of the publications and AM influencers that I follow to stay up to date on what's going on. But also be reasonable. There is a lot of information, so find areas that are of interest to you and kind of try to stay focused. For example, with healthcare and bioprinting information, I really like to keep an eye on 3D Heals for virtual events, and also follow along with Jenny Chen on LinkedIn, as she pretty much posts everything there as well. So yeah, lots of information can be a bit overwhelming, but there's also a lot of resources out there. So, don't be afraid to kind of get in the weeds and learn as much as possible. And then, related to that, there's, don't be afraid to also get involved and reach out to people. There's so many great initiatives going on, both virtually and in person, events such as this one. And then again, Women in 3D Printing being a great example of this, but also on the individual level, don't be afraid to, go out there and ask questions. The industry is, filled with a lot of really smart people who are passionate and will talk your ear off about all the things that they're working on. So don't be afraid to, reach out. Just be sincere and respectful and honest, and it will go a long way. But yeah, and then kind of to summarize and taking a look at sort of final thoughts, in general, if you kind of compare the key elements that made me excited to work in the cybersecurity industry to kind of, what I've learned about the additive manufacturing industry so far, you can see that there's some general commonalities that really come down to, working in any industry. And it's, really working in an industry that sort of fuels your desire to, make an impact, be a part of something, and kind of continuously learn. And that's really what I'm excited about in terms of the additive manufacturing industry. But yeah, that's really all I had. So if there's any questions, feel free to reach out, but otherwise happy to connect on LinkedIn or via email.
Thank you so much, Julie. I just had a quick question, just of interest. As you say, it's your journey is talking from cybersecurity going into 3D printing. Have you found that this kind of community feel and the openness and willingness to share is quite unique to additive manufacturing, or is that something you did see in previous industry?
Yeah. I mean, I think I definitely did see that in cybersecurity, right? There's so many threats out there in the world that if you don't share all the knowledge, the bad actors will get to that, before the good ones. So I feel like that definitely was in the cybersecurity industry. But I don't think that's necessarily in all industries. And that's also what attracted me to additive manufacturing. I think that with additive being sort of this disruptive new technology, or new-ish, now growing in kind of tenure, but it still has a long way to go, right? So people need to collaborate, and we only all benefit from it.
Mm-hmm. And I'd just love to get your thoughts as well, as someone who is working on a really, interesting technology, talking multi-materials, and you spoke at the start about how this is really this culmination of all these different kind of areas of expertise all coming together. We are in the people trap today. How important do you think it is that we have to really reach out and connect with people from different areas of expertise, rather than just going down standard engineering routes or kind of more traditional backgrounds in manufacturing?
Yeah, no, I mean, that also is something that was quite unique in the cybersecurity industry, is that you didn't need a very a traditional background. And I will say, coming into additive, it felt like there is more of a track, right? But there's a lot of mechanical engineers and a lot of certain types of groups, but I, having kind of gone around, and I've attended a few of the Women in 3D Printing events, it's interesting to see that it feels like it's definitely growing. And I think it's more important about what channels and how to bring people in, that's a whole nother challenge, and kind of get them up to speed on because like you need to know just a ton of information, I feel like, to get started, which can be kind of overwhelming. And so how do we make that more accessible to people is definitely something that I can see as a challenge.
Well, thank you again so much, Julie. Thank you. We're going to take just a couple minutes break before we prepare the next speaker. So thank you again.
Cool. Thanks. Have a good one.